Okay, here we go. At the helm of Kubernetes. I do have a few slides for this talk, but the majority of it is demos, which is really cool. The slides for this and the code for this is online right now. I've been that guy chasing the speaker, trying to get the slides out of them, and it never works out well. So head out to robrich.org, click on presentations right here at the top, and you can find At the Helm of Kubernetes. Here's the slides, here's the code. It is available online right now. While you're here at robrich.org, click on About Me, and you'll see some of the things that I've done recently. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a friend of Redgate. AZ Give Camp is really fun. AZ Give Camp brings volunteer developers together with charities to build free software. We start Friday after work, and we end Sunday afternoon delivering that free software back to the charities. Sleep is optional, caffeine provided. If you're in Phoenix, come join us for the next AZ Give Camp. Or if you'd like a Give Camp in your area, hit me up on email or on Twitter, and let's get philanthropy installed in your neighborhood too. Some of the other things that I've done, SQL Source Control Basics, mine is Chapter 8. That was fun. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of, I replied to a .NET Rocks podcast episode. They read my comment in the air, and they sent me a mug. Woohoo! Oh, and I run a user group. You might be familiar with it. So let's dig into At the Helm of Kubernetes. Now, if you're familiar with Kubernetes, then you might be familiar with the tool Helm. If you're not, then Kubernetes has a lot of YAML, and Helm is a tool that helps us with that. We talked about this guy. So Helm. Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes. Helm can template YAML files, we can build installable packages, and we can share those packages with others. So we're talking about containers, and we're talking about packaging them and sharing them. Isn't that like Docker Hub? Well, yes. Docker does this for containers, for the software that we want to install on the machine. Helm does this for the YAML to specify those containers together with other dependencies like configuration, users, volumes, secrets, services. All of those details are in the Kubernetes YAML files, not in Docker Hub. So Helm is that piece for the Kubernetes YAML files. We're not replacing Docker Hub or your container registry on Azure Container Registry or your cloud of choice. We're doing this for the Kubernetes YAML files. So let's dig in. Let's go do some Helmy stuff. I go out to the repo and I can clone the content that includes the results of what we're going to build today, which is pretty sweet. And it includes a .NET website. Now here in my folder on my local machine, there we go. I cloned the content and I very specifically deleted the chart. We still have our .NET website here. And so we can take a look at the controllers. We've got a home controller. We've got views. Here's our home view. And we've got all of the content associated with our app. To that, I added a Docker file. We're still using Docker files. We're still publishing this content to our container registry. And here's that Docker file that does the content. This is a multi-stage Docker file. So we have our build server, misusing that term, that will build up our content. And we have our production server that will be able to run this. Notice that this doesn't have the build tools. It doesn't have our source code. So when we spin up this container, we can do stuff really quickly. So that's all done. We've done our .NET new MVC. We've also crafted our Docker file. And to that end, I also did this. I said Docker build -t at the Helm. Let me double check. At the Helm version 0.1.0. I've already done that too. So if we come into Docker image list, we can see that I've already got that in place. Now, maybe I chose to publish this to my container registry and pull it back down, but there it is at the Helm. Next up, we have our Kubernetes YAML. Now, this Kubernetes YAML is all of the content that we need to be able to spin this up. So we have a service, we have a deployment. Our deployment specifies the number of replicas. We have an ingress. Maybe some projects need an ingress, some of them don't. In this case, we also have the annotation that gives us HTTP application routing inside of Azure. So we get automatic DNS at this host name. That's really cool. What we see, though, is that we have a lot of redundancy. Like, well, at the Helm, that's all over the place. I wonder, could we zoom in? Could we focus on just those pieces that we care about and kind of leave all that redundancy behind? Let's do it. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder chart. Now, it doesn't matter what this is, but by convention, chart kind of makes sense. Helm packages are called Helm charts. So we've got our folder. We could name it foo or whatever. Inside that, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this templates. Okay, inside the chart folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this, what am I going to call it? Values. Here in values.yaml are those pieces that I want to focus in on. So let's go find all of the unique values here in our YAML and copy them into place. Well, we've got name at the Helm. That sounds great. We've got the type. So in this case, I'm going to say it's the service type of node port. We've got a port. We duplicate that all over the place. We've got here the number of replicas. That may change between applications. That's cool. We've got a version. Now, I'm calling it a version, but we're using that version in a lot of places. Technically, it's this image label. So let's call it image label. That's cool. We've got our port again. Ooh, we've got some resource limits. Depending on our application, we may have different resource limits where a container may take more or less space. Let's grab that one too. We've got our container registry URL. So let's call this registry. That's pretty cool. We also, some apps may have an ingress. So let's say ingress enabled. In this case, we'll say yes. Here in ingress, we also have some annotations. We may have different annotations, but depending on our application. So ingress annotations. And we've also got this ingress host name. So we'll go grab that as well. Ingress host. Cool. So we've got all of our values here. And these are the things that we care about. All of this other stuff is, well, boilerplate or explaining to Kubernetes foreign key relationships. You know, we can just kind of set that aside. Let's say, yeah, I want to focus in on just these pieces. Now, inside this chart, I'm also going to add one more file. Let's come in here and we'll go find a chart.yaml. Now, this describes the details of our chart. And here's our chart.yaml. I could definitely type it, but watching me type, let's just copy it into place. We've got this chart.yaml. So this chart.yaml specifies some standard stuff that each Helm package, each Helm chart has. API version, name, description. Here's that at the Helm of Kubernetes sample app. So that's my chart description. We have a type. Here we have two different types that we can choose, application or library. Now we can create a Helm library that we could consume from other Helm charts. Maybe it has functions that help us template certain resources, or maybe it helps us compute content like the credentials, the RBAC, the details in that piece. Maybe we could spin off our ingress details into a separate library. In this case, we only have an endpoint thing. We want to actually template out our resources. So we'll say our type is application. Next up, we have a chart version. Now, in this case, the version is 0.1.0. We also have an app version that is 0.1.0. Wait a minute. Our whole point is to remove the redundancy. Why do we have 2 versions. Well, if we have a bug in our chart, we'll probably want to increment our chart version, but we want to be able to specify the app version differently. Have you ever had a NuGet package where the NuGet package and the software version diverged? And well, it was because they wanted to rebundle the NuGet package, maybe a dependency updated, and so they needed to forward the version number. But the project that they were deploying didn't change. So, well, what's the version of this? In this case, we have a chart version and we have an application version. So I can show that my app didn't change and my chart did. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we already have name here, so we can remove name from here. We've already got that in place. Now let's take these pieces and start templating out this Kubernetes piece. So here in templates, let's create a new file. Let's say this is service.yaml. And here in the service.yaml, we'll want to go grab all of this YAML and we will set it in place right here. That's great. New file, we want a deployment.yaml. And so let's go get all of the details about the deployment. Here's all of that deployment details. We'll set them in place right here. We're going to create another new file for our ingress, new file ingress.yaml, and we'll go grab our ingress details and copy those into place in here as well. Okay. So now we've got all of our services separated. We kind of like having source code in different files. So putting all of the details into that one Kubernetes YAML file, I feel a little bit better having these in these 3 places. But at the same time, deploying that one file was really easy. Well, let's start to replace things. Here we can say we've got this where we can say chart.name, and that will replace that. We'll copy that here and here. Here's our type. We'll say .values .service type, and it will read that service type out of right here. Here we've got a port, so let's say .values.port. We'll use that in both places. Hey, look, the majority of our service definition was just kind of boilerplate, getting things indented correctly and pointed into the right place. Okay, granted, if our port and our target port were different, we might need to take different actions. But for the most part, yeah, we got it. Let's flip over to the deployment and do that as well.
Question,
okay.
Rob?
Yep.
Why did you have to prefix, well, here you're prefixing chart with the dot where you didn't in the other one. Was that just a mistake or?
That was a mistake. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So why the dot? What is that? Why dot in front of chart?
These are Go templates, and Go says that's how I read content out of a file.
Okay.
Okay. If you're familiar with Go templates, then it's super easy. If you're not, here's the handlebar syntax, and we've seen that in lots of places. We just say dot to get into our objects. In this case, is it the chart file or the values file? And then we can reference the thing. So chart.name gets us this chart name, and values.service type gets us this values service type. And so that's just the mechanism that we use to do it.
Cool.
But good call. Let's put that typo back because we'll be able to see an interesting way to catch that in a second.
Cool.
Great question. Thank you. In the deployment, so we've got this .chart.name. We'll set that here. Let's set that into all the places that say at the Helm. That's perfect. Number of replicas. Okay, so let's say .values.replicas. I love that IntelliSense where it starts to recognize this file. That's cool. Here we've got .values. Image label. We'll use image label both here and here. We'll also use it here, but not image label. We'll say registry. Now, to help YAML understand that this is a single value, I'm going to put quotes around it. And now it goes, oh, okay, yeah, that entire thing is a string. I'm good with that. here dot values dot port. Okay. And here in ingress, we can add this, let's say dot chart dot name. And I believe that is, oh, we have one more spot right here, chart name, and we can say dot values dot port. Okay, let's check this out and see how we do.
Rob, did you purposely skip the resources in the deployment?
Yes, I did. Helm lint. I want to Helm lint my chart. So where's my chart folder? I'm going to go after this chart folder and I'm going to say chart. And it'll say, hey, you've got a parse error. Go fix your chart thing. Oh, hey, yeah, you're right. I need a dot right there. Okay. Now I've got this. I will say Helm lint chart. And now it'll go check that and go, yep, my chart looks okay. That's great. So that was easy. We were able to just template out a bunch of values and set them in place. Now let's level up. Let's say, well, you know, I don't always have an ingress. So let me say this. If dot values dot ingress enabled, I want to do this whole piece. And if not, I'm going to do this. And here's where the Go templates thing comes into place. This says trim spaces. So if there isn't one, it's actually going to go there. And I think that's pretty cool. So now if we don't have an ingress, if we set this to false, then we just won't render this chart at all. That's cool. Oh, we forgot this one right here. Let's do this to values ingress host. Let's level up again and talk about annotations. Now, there may be more than one annotation. Like here in resources, there's a whole bunch. In annotations, there's just one, but I do need to do some interesting things here. So let's say I want to call the toYaml function, and I want to say toYaml.values.ingress annotations, and that will just dump all the YAML into place, but I want to indent 4 spaces. So it'll go grab all of the annotations here, set them all in place, and indent them 4 spaces so that my YAML will work correctly. That's cool. Let's do that here. Let's also come in here into the deployment in the resources and do that here as well. Now in the resources, I need to not only grab resources, but I also need to indent 10 spaces instead of 4. Okay. Now I've got all of the content in place and we can do a Helm lint chart again. Do we have any typos? Nope, we're good. Let's level up one more time. If I have a registry, then I probably want to dump this out. But if I don't have a registry, if I set it to blank, then my image will start with a leading slash. I don't want to do that. I want to say, if I've got a registry, add the slash, and if not, just start with the chart name. So let's come in here and let's say, if if.values.registry, then I want to dump out the values registry and the slash, and otherwise just start with chart name and output the chart name and image label. So that's really cool. If I have a registry, I will do the registry and the slash. If I don't have a registry, I will only do the chart name and the image label. Let's go lint our chart again, make sure there's no typos. Great, we've got it. Okay, so now we've got our chart ready to go. We could scaffold anything. In this case, we only scaffolded a deployment, an ingress, and a service. but we could also scaffold config maps and secrets and PVCs and PVs and roles and users and role bindings and all of the pieces that we need, service accounts. We can specify all the details that we need to make our application go. So now let's template this out. Helm template chart. Now this is going to dump out all of the content, going and looping through and setting all of our variables in place. So we've got target port of 80, we've got name at the helm, we've got our image name set correctly, we've got our annotations in place, we've got our resources in place. That's cool. We were able to specify all the things. Let's do that again, but let's send that to dist.yaml. And now let's take a look at that dist.yaml and compare it to our original. Did we get our template built correctly? I'm going to use beyond compare for this just because beyond compare is awesome. And let's diff what we started with and what we ended up with. Now, what we notice here is that Helm did add a comment to specify the source file in each place, but that's it. That's the only difference that we have, other than the quotes that we added around the image name, just so that YAML understood that that was one value as we did all of our templating. That's pretty cool. We were able to template out the file and get exactly what we wanted. Well, that's cool. Let's do something like that, but let's set some variables in it. Helm template chart. I'm going to -- set image label equals v0.1.0. So we kind of left in this replaceable piece. Let's replace that now. And we'll set ingress enabled equals false. Now we got our deployment, we got our service, we got the version set correctly, and we don't have an ingress. If we're on a CI server and our goal is to just send some Kubernetes content into place, we can use this in a really elegant way. Let's do this, but instead of this, I'm going to say image label is 0.1.0 and ingress host is ... and registry is blank. And now I'm going to say kubectl apply -f that content. So here's my dash saying from standard in. It'll template that thing and send it off to Kubernetes. This is the perfect command at the end of my CI build where I'm just going to go grab all the variables. Maybe I have the git hash, maybe I have the software version, and I'll just blast it into my environment. kubectl get all, and I've got that pod, I've got the service, I've got the deployment, kubectl get all and ingress. And I see that I have that ingress created as well. That was cool. Now let's go delete it because we can do that. Delete. And all of that content is now gone. kubectl get all and ingress. And well, it's on its way down, but that was really easy to go create and then delete all the things. Services, deployments, PVs, PVCs, service accounts, role bindings, config maps, all the things that our app needs. And we can set in the parameters that we need at deployment time to be able to adjust it. That's cool. So let's level up a bit and talk about packages. If we only needed to deploy this to a CI system, we could stop here and we could say, I'm just going to go grab my chart, swap out some variables, and pipe it into place. But what if we want to create an installable package and maybe promote that between environments or share it with others? Let's do that. Helm package chart. Now, when I say Helm package chart, it's going to dump this file here into this .tgz file. So let's go look at that. Here's this tgz file. I'm going to untar that, extract here. Now, when we look at this folder, it's basically all the files that we had. Oh, I've still got a tar file in there. Let's untar that. It's all of the files that I had in my chart. Now that's cool. If we take this and compare it to the chart folder, we can see that we have exactly the same content. Now, we could definitely adjust it on the way in, and let's do that next. But other than a little bit of spacing in here, we got the exact same files on both sides. Let me show all of the files. All of our templates, all of our values, all of that is set in place. So here in our chart, we just, well, removed comments. That's cool. That package then describes all of the things that we need to be able to build up our system. Let's go delete that chart, that package rather, and let's see if we can parameterize it a little bit more. Okay, Helm package chart. Let's say -- app version is 0.1.0 and version is 0.1.0 and destination is the dist folder. Okay, so now I have this at the Helm and I've got a version number in place inside my dist folder. If we unpacked it, we could see that it set the app version and version in place nicely. That's cool. Now what I really want to do is I want to say Helm package chart -- all of those things. And I want to say -- set image label to v0.1.0 and those other pieces. And what we'll see is that's not a thing. Helm package can't set these things. Okay, so let's head out to this Helm pack repository where we can get a Helm pack plugin. Now, the beauty of the Helm pack plugin is that once we have it installed, we can use Helm pack with all of the details and with -- set equals blah. So that same mechanism that we could use when we were templating, we can now use when we're packing if we use pack instead of package. Okay, Helm package, no, Helm pack chart. And I'm going to set some variables here. Let's set, that was too many. Helm pack chart. App version is 0.1.0, version is 0.1.0, destination is dist. I'm going to set the image label correctly. I'm going to set the registry to blank, and I'll set ingress host to blank as well. I have now created this dist at the Helm 0.1.0 package. Now, I can take that package and I can start to install it. Let's do that. Helm install my app, and I'm going to come from dist / at the Helm, and I will install this package. Now, as I install this package, I may have some additional configuration. So let's say set ingress enabled equals false and replicas equals 2. Okay, I'm installing my app. Now it's going to go through and grab all the detail and apply that and show me this. Let's say Helm. I see I missed one piece. Helm list. That will show me all my Helm packages that are installed. And I've got this. kubectl get all. I see that in this case, I didn't create an ingress, but I do have my deployment. I do have my service, and it spun up 2 pods. That's cool. Now I may choose to upgrade my package. I can say Helm status, my app. And with Helm status, we can see that we're on revision 1. Helm list shows us that we're on revision 1. Now that doesn't say anything about the Helm chart version or the application version, but rather just how many times have I upgraded it. If I want to, for example, upgrade my app, I can say Helm upgrade my -app, and I can point it at dist / at the Helm. So in this case, I'm upgrading it from where it is to exactly where it is, but it'll go reapply all those pieces. We're now on revision 2. That's cool. Now, if I say kubectl get all, we've got our content, but what if I want to install a second version of this application? Right now, because we've named these things this way, if I were to install a second version, or a second instance rather, the instance would collide. The app is already in place. Let's upgrade our chart again and make this an instance specific thing. On our way through, I'm also going to grab this notes.txt, and this is installation instructions. And we can set this in place inside of our templates folder. And now we'll just have some installation notes. So here we can see that it says, thanks for installing my chart name. I installed this chart version. You chose to name this instance release.name. It's just a markdown file, and I can add whatever I need to here. Start your app by browsing to, hey, if I've got an ingress host name, I can give that. If they didn't specify a host, it's localhost. I'll give them the port number, and that's only if ingress is enabled. I can also say, hey, or you can just go grab the service and go grab the port out of that service. That's pretty cool. One of the things that we see here is release.name. Ooh, that's really, really handy. If I want to create a service that is specific to the release name, maybe I want to name that chart name - release name. Now that does mean that here I'll need to say release name so that I get my, so that this service only controls those particular pods. But I can do that here. I can also come in here to my ingress and I'll name that release name. I'm specifying now this service. I'll come into my deployment. My deployment will also be named specific to my release name. I'll also give it a release and give that a name. I don't need to change the name of the container, though I definitely could. And so now I've got all the details that will make this a release specific instance so that we could install multiple ones. Let's do that. Helm pack chart --app -version. So we still have our app as 0.1.0. We haven't changed our app at all, but we are going to say our chart version is 0.1.1. Our app didn't change, our chart did. --destination dist --set image label is v0.1.0. registry is ... And I've done that twice now. I probably ought to come into values and set it to blank so I don't need to override it as I'm packaging it. But we've got the concept. Ingress host is blank as well. And now I've created let go. There we go. Now I've successfully created this 0.1.1 instance of the chart. Okay, now let's install that. Helm install my app2. I'm going to point it at dist / at the helm 0.1.1, and I will set some things. Let's set ingress enabled equals false, and replicas is 1. So last time we did some stuff about installing 2 of them. Now we're going to install 1. Okay, Helm install my app. Ooh. Deployment. I missed the deployment name right there. Match labels. Oh, because I did this. This should be release. There we go. I missed the thing, which was Helm lint chart, which would have shown me that. Oops. Haha. Okay, so let's pack the chart again, but now we're doing 0.1.2. Okay, that's awesome. Let's now install the app, and we're going to install 0.1.2. Okay, we got our app installed. It's revision 1 of my app 2. And oh, hey, we've got this template that showed us interesting things. Thanks for installing at the Helm version 0.1.2. You chose to name this instance my app 2. To see your resources, run Helm status, Helm get all, kubectl get all. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Helm status, my app2. That just basically gave us that again. That's cool. Helm get all, my app2. That will give us all of the YAML that we use to build this. That's cool. Kubectl get all. And we can see that not only do we have our original at the helm, but we also have our at the helm my app2. All of our resources are suffixed with the release name. So now we can have two instances running at the same time. Helm uninstall my app. And now I'm going to remove the one. And now if I kubectl get all, I can see that I only have my Helm my app2 left. That's cool. Well, these are terminating. Helm uninstall my app2. Now, did I clean up all of the resources? Did I delete all of those service accounts? Did I remove all the configuration? All of that YAML is handled for me inside this package. This package specified all of the details that I needed to be able to create and to delete that content. Kubectl get all. And I see that I have nothing left in my cluster. That was really cool. So we were able to template stuff. We were able to create packages and install them and also configure it on the way through. We can also share these packages. Much like Docker Hub, we have Artifact Hub. Artifact Hub is a mechanism for being able to share these packages in interesting ways and to be able to consume them from others. Now, like Docker Hub, it's not the only package registry. We can create private package registries, and there's ways to publish them kind of alongside your Docker containers, which is really interesting. Let's say I would like to search for nginx. I want to install an nginx server. This one looks cool. Let's grab this one. And here's the installation instructions. Now, first step is Helm repo add bitnami. Ooh, this registry is not a registry of Helm charts. It is a registry of registries. So I'm going to go add this registry. And once I add this registry, now I'm able to grab packages from that registry. Okay, now I have that registry in place. Step 2, let's go install this content. Now, I don't know what container it is. I don't need to configure anything. I definitely can if I want to, but I just need to go Helm install that thing. Okay, Helm install the thing. Does it need services? Does it need ingress? What deployments? Oh, I've got some instructions right here. I've got all of the pieces in place. I can go grab my service port and service IP and use those to connect to it. Or I've got an ingress set up to be able to hit it this way. Kubectl get all. In this case, here's my service, my release nginx. It's running on this port. So let's go to that port. I'll hit localhost and that port. And here's my nginx server. It's loading. Fail. Oh, that's the load balancer. And yeah, that should be it. Did I not copy that correctly? Or did I erase the pod on the way up? Nope, I'm going to call that a demo fail. It did help me understand the steps that I would need to be able to proxy into that service. And so we could definitely do that as well. But I'm going to call that a demo fail and just move on. The cool part, though, is that, oh, am I running this? I am not. Oh, I am. I know why. I'm in Minikube. There we go. Here's my nginx server, and it's ready to go. I didn't need to specify anything about this. I just said, I want an nginx server, and it took care of all of the details. That was really cool. Helm list. Here's my charts that I've got installed. Here's the chart version and the app version. And now I can say Helm uninstall my release, and all of that content will get removed. That's cool. So now we're able to share and consume packages from others, and that is really, really fun. Now I've spun it down, so now we'll get a 404. So that's really sweet. We got to see a bunch of different things inside Helm. We got to see how we could template content. We got to see how we could remove a lot of duplication from those files. And we got to see that we got to package this in a really elegant way and either share or consume packages from others. With Helm, I can scaffold out anything. It is a superset of YAML. So I don't even need to scaffold out Kubernetes YAML files. I could scaffold out configuration files for other places. Maybe this is a Thai config. I could scaffold that out with Helm as well. I'm just replacing it with variables that I need to. We saw that it's really cool in being able to spin up and spin down resources really, really easily. But it can't monitor and scale and heal these resources. Now I could create auto scale details inside the content that I create. I could specify health check endpoints, and now Kubernetes can do some of that healing automatically. But really the Helm mechanism is only about that initial creation and deletion mechanism. So what if I want to take that to the next level? Well, that's where Kubernetes operators come into place. Kubernetes operators allow us to do some really cool things about understanding the health and life cycle of our applications and reacting to it in really interesting ways. Now, I can package my Helm chart as a Kubernetes operator, but still the limitations of Helm are only about installation and upgrades. I can replace resources. I can't self-heal. I can't auto-scale. If I want to use Ansible and wrap it in a Kubernetes operator, I can get to some of those lifecycle hooks. But if I really want to level up and get all of the content, then I need to build operators in Go. The Go SDK allows me to do some really elegant things. There are other SDKs coming online, so I can do things in Python and in JavaScript now. But really, to take maximum effect inside Kubernetes, I need to write operators in Go. Now, once I write those operators in Go, I can do all kinds of interesting things like autopilot, where I just understand the nature of my cluster and I can take responsive action there. Helm gets me to create them really easily, but Helm stops at creating it. If I want to auto scale, auto heal, all of those types of details, that's where an operator is really, really powerful. Helm is great for removing that duplication. We saw that we could focus in on just those core values that we needed and set those values either from command line as we created the package or on the command line as we installed the package. And that allows us to just focus in on those things that we care about. Now, in this case, we identified what we cared about. We could have chosen any variables. We could have created an if-def around a deployment or a service. We could have scaffold out lots of things. If we have a container port and a service port that need to be different, we could scaffold out those values as well. We can tune this as tightly or as broadly as we need to template out exactly the values that we care about and maybe hard code the values that we don't care about. We saw the three things inside Helm. We can template things. And if we're on our build server and we just need to apply content coming out of Kubernetes at the last step in our build phase, this might be completely sufficient. We just Helm template, we give it our folder name, and we set whatever we need to, and we pipe that to kubectl apply. That's a perfectly legitimate mechanism for using Helm. We also leveled up where we could create these packages and then start to share those and install them, setting particular parameters that might be appropriate for each environment. We leveled up again and we looked at packages where we could consume these packages from others and the minimum configuration we needed to be able to install all of the pieces associated with that package. Artifact Hub or any registry for Helm charts is a really elegant mechanism to do this. Helm is a really fun tool to be able to focus in on the things that you care about. So to that end, if you're watching this video online later, hit me up on Twitter at Rob_Rich and tell me the things that you want to focus on. For those people who are live in the meeting, what are your thoughts? What are your questions? Where would you like to use Helm?
Couldn't tell if that was recorded, Rob, or natural from that last slide. I have a question, and excuse me if it's very basic, but this is really my first intro to Helm / Kubernetes / pretty much everything you did.
That's totally fine. Let's jump in.
So if I get the basics of containers and what Kubernetes does and everything. The question I had was around the artifact hubs. So mentally, I translated it as like a NuGet or any type of package manager where you can get predefined, in your particular case, the templates to generate your container and the entire bit. Am I right so far?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is it just for the containers, or can you get the bits and pieces? Like when you were charting out everything and breaking out your deployments and your resources, setting ingress, everything that you did in the chart and the templates, can you get that granular on there, or are these just like the overall predefined packages? And the reason why I'm asking,
we actually built these templates specific to what we needed. And so if we needed a secret, we could do that, secret.yaml. If we needed to do users and roles, we could do roles.yaml. If we needed to have multiple things, so maybe we have stateful set A and stateful set B, and maybe I need not only my application, but I also need database. I can specify as many or as few things that I need and then template out those pieces in exactly the form factor that I need to make that happen.
yes, no, I totally get that. What I was getting at is, are there predefined templates for things? Like right now you have database. Is there a predefined template that you can get on Artifact Hub so you don't have to recreate a lot of the basics? Unless I'm misunderstanding this.
You can say Helm init and give it a folder name, and it will kind of scaffold out some basics of what it thinks is a good idea in all the places. And I specifically didn't use that today because I find their templates to be a little bit hairier than we needed. And we really wanted to focus in on the service, the deployment, and the ingress that we needed. So those, when you say Helm init and it automatically creates a bunch of stuff, it will create a service and a deployment and an ingress enabled flag, but it'll also create users and config maps and maybe some of the details that you don't care about.
Okay. Yeah, what I was getting at is more so because, like, in my particular case, I'm so new to this. Like, what the init sounds like a good starting point, even though it has a lot of extra fluff, just like if you do file new in Visual Studio or any kind of tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be a little overwhelming, all of the particulars that it gives us.
That's what I was getting at, like the Hello World starter kits versus, the more advanced starter kits. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin if I went to Artifact Hubs,
to that end, Helm is specifically solving the problem of this file is too much. If this file isn't too much, you can just stick with Kubernetes and do all the Kubernetes things straight away. You don't need Helm.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that was an awesome question. And welcome to Kubernetes. This will be a fun journey for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So someone who is using Kubernetes but not using really Helm yet, where is there a good reference for it? What's the where do you go when you need to find out something that's not already in that big brain of yours?
Well, the way that I learned Helm is I said Helm init, some folder, and I just started digging in. Oh, is it not init?
Where would you go to find out what it is? Oh, okay.
Helm create. That's what it is. I said Helm create some app, and I just started digging into this thing. So, we called it chart, but it doesn't need to be. But here's that piece: chart, values, templates. And so, they have some helpers, some, reference functions that are kind of interesting. And so I just started monkeying in here until I could figure it out. But this was great reference. Here's an indent, and I'm like, oh yeah, if I have lots of match labels, I want to go grab all of them. So I started in here, and then I'm like, what's with the dash? And I Googled that for a while, and eventually I was able to figure it out. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about is Helm ignore. That's pretty cool.
I really think Apple should just stop with the .ds_store because it's in every .ignore file known to man.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So given that Helm sounds like yet another YAML manager, what is the selling point for Helm over something else?
Good call. Why would I choose Helm instead of, any other YAML templating solution? For me, I really like that Helm just does YAML. It doesn't try to do any other Kubernetes-y bits. So if I'm trying to template out any other kind of YAML file, like a Thai YAML config, then I can do that in Helm as well. It's kind of, to me, a lot like a Razor view inside of MVC. I can just go to town. It doesn't need to try and take over the life cycle of all the pieces. But ultimately, yeah, it is just a YAML management tool. And if you have a management tool for YAML that you enjoy, then Helm may not be the right choice. What tools do you like to use for managing YAML?
Whatever works.
VI.
I guess for some people who like doing that, sure.
VI is the only editor of choice.
Boy.
Until Visual Studio Code came out.
Yeah.
I
was
still
waiting for Barry to say, no, Emacs.
Nano.
There you go.
Visual Notepad. Oh, wait.
Pick the operating system.
There you go.
I thank you, Rob, for this. This was pretty awesome for me, even though some parts I didn't understand. I thought it was great.
I'm glad. And I hope it was gentle enough that in spite of the fact that some of it was new, it was still easy to understand and easy to level up when we needed to. I'm glad you called me out about, not doing the resources. I'm like, yep, that's coming.
Well, I'm going to go start playing with some of the templates. And then after I get a little more familiar with it, I'm going to come back and watch this video again, which I'll probably post like next week or something. And then pick up on a lot of the other things that you said that I like, oh, that's what he meant by that. Okay.
Yes. It's one of those things where once you get into it and you're like, oh, I have this problem. Oh yeah, that's what that was for.
Yep.
Like one of the things that I hit was here in values, I still have my template, my fake things in here, which meant that every time I packaged it, I needed to override it. So really what I want to do is, well, not image label. I definitely want to override that. But here, I probably want to leave this blank. And now I don't need to override it in all the places. Service type of node port isn't a great default. I should use cluster IP. And so, that's a better default there. This also assumes Azure. And so maybe that's not the correct road as well. Maybe I should start out with this as blank. And now probably when I'm packaging it, I can just leave it as blank in most cases. But if I know that this particular app is particularly hungry, then I'll give it maybe 1 CPU instead of a half a CPU, or I'll give it 256 megs RAM, and now I can tune that one application. At that point, if the entirety of my chart, except for this values file, is the same, I can create a chart library and I can publish that to, I don't know, registry.carvana.com. And then I can just consume that here from my chart and just tweak out the details that I need for my particular application, and then be able to deploy that really easily in one shot.